Welcome back, everybody. It's Brenda and another episode of the Three Uniques podcast. Today, I have on Jen Ziegner. Hi, Jen. How are you doing today?
Hey, Brenda. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you here. So Jen is the co-founder, and I just want to sure I get this right, of Mountains and Marathons. She's also the lead coach of the organization that you and your partner have created. It's all about entrepreneurs and executives get to create a deeper alignment in their lives, but also doing like the physical part of it. It's not just the coaching piece as far as what they're doing in their life, but you're getting them to climb mountains, you're getting them to do marathons, any big goals that they've got, you're there to help support them.
That's right. Yes. So any big goals they have in life, we're there to support them. And the Mountain and the Marathon specifically is the graduation event after or at the end of the 6-month-long leadership program.
Amazing. And so you've got another one that's coming up soon. I know we were going to talk about it maybe more at the end, but I'm just going to bring it up now. It's coming up in the spring in Kilimanjaro. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so our next edition starts in May. This is the Mount Kilimanjaro 2023 edition, and this one ends with climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in October this year. In essence, each of the Align programs have a similar structure in that they involve private leadership coaching, so individual coaching, like we're really focused in on like, what do you want? What do you need? Like, where are you at in the leadership journey, in your alignment journey? Then we have group coaching where we bring the entire team together, somewhere around like 10 to 15 people, bring everybody together and we coach together. We really like build this sense of community, introduce new leadership content and so on. Then there's nutrition coaching and fitness coaching, who we have two separate coaches from. That's not what Jamie and I do, that's two other coaches.
Right.
And they're extraordinary in what they do. So we really focus on this holistic transformation over the 6 months that can really touch on any and every life area that people are curious to work on, which for me is the beauty of alignment. It can apply to anything. And then at the end, we have the graduation retreat. And that is the piece that differs from program to program. And so, yes, our next one will graduate with Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, which is really our most successful programs that we've run so far. I think this is going to be our 6th Kilimanjaro edition in 5 years.
Wow.
So it's the thing that people want. It's on so many people's bucket lists. And it is truly an extraordinary life transforming adventure.
Okay, so how did you get into this work? Because tell me if I'm wrong here, but were you like 8 years old and you came up with this concept and you're like, okay, this is my life ambition? Or, how did you get yourself aligned around wanting to do this work every single day with executives and leaders?
Sure, yeah, happy to share. So before starting Mountains and Marathons, we're coming up on our, in March, so I don't know when exactly this one will come out, but 12th of March is our 5th anniversary. But before that, I was working in the space of impact investing and social enterprise in Australia. And I was really inspired. I was working with leaders and business founders out there that were creating organizations and businesses that aren't only there to create profit, but that are really there to create a measurable societal impact in different areas, whether that was homelessness or food security or any of the others. And I was working with them in my role in the context of investment readiness and their business modeling and so forth. But what I noticed I was really curious about was actually the people behind that. It was, who are the people who build these organizations and put so much of their time and energy and their hearts into finding sustainable solutions to some of the major societal issues we're facing. And as I was kind of connecting more with the people behind it, what I saw is what we often see in any kind of founders or executives and leaders, which is that there were the moments where they weren't there for the kids' soccer games when they really wanted to, that they were telling me that, they were making a difference, but also their health was really suffering. And what I noticed was that if we want to make a sustainable change, and if we want leaders to be able to make a sustainable change in the world, we need them to not only do good, but also be well while they're doing good. And so I was really inspired to create something that would, yes, enable them to perform better, to follow whatever mission and pursue whatever mission they have better and be more impactful. And at the same time, also, how do we make sure that your marriage is great? How do we make sure that your relationships with your kids and your family is great, that your health is good and all of that, and really create something that is holistic in that way. And the interesting thing was, so when I first met Jamin, so for the first 2.5 years of Mountains and Marathons, we were romantically together. Now we're best friends and business partners. But Jamin was basically, when we first met, exactly one of those people. So he was leading 3 youth leadership development organizations that were all not really profitable, but doing great work in the world. And he was actually pretty miserable and burnt out by the time that we met.
Right.
And he had first had the vision of going to like run marathons and climb mountains all over the world. And when we came together and started dating and looking at like what could this really look like, both having like a background in leadership development and coaching and those pieces, we really looked at like what could this look like as a bigger transformative adventure that involves running marathons or climbing mountains, but really helps people to be holistically aligned across every area of their lives.
And like such a fabulous story of you two coming together in your personal life, but then also dreaming up this business, and that you guys get to do this all around the world. And, you know, and be sort of almost like the role model for the people that are coming in to be a part of this coaching experience. So it takes place over 6 months, and you get paired up obviously with yourself and with Jamin, but then you also have additional coaches that really, I think, help you on the nutrition side and also on the actual fitness, like health, body side. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yes, 100%. So yes, Jim and I, we take care of the personal leadership coaching, the transformational aspect there. And then we have world-class fitness and nutrition coaches. They're based in the US and Canada, and Cindy and Pamela. And they really take care of, on the nutrition side, not only, okay, like how can you optimize your nutrition and make sure that, you know, yes, you have the energy and you have the level of health and vitality to get up a mountain or run a marathon, but really more so, what can we shift at a deeper level so that the impact of this lasts way beyond the line? Because this is with everything we do. Like Align Fast is only just the beginning. Like it's a training ground over 6 months to implement ways of being and ways of looking at the world and ourselves that, you know, people can take into like literally the rest of their lives for decades ahead. That's the whole intention. And it's the same with the nutrition coaching. Like we're looking at what is my relationship with food, like what is the psychology behind it, not only what am I eating at the surface level. And similarly with the fitness coaching, everybody gets literally like a day-by-day training plan for the entire 6 months. And then also deeper coaching when it comes to like, what is my relationship with this and what does this really need to look like for me over these 6 months? Yes, to get fit for the mountain or the marathon, but also in a way that actually works in my life ongoingly. The people we work with are obviously, I assume it's the same for you, Brenda, incredibly busy. They have big lives. You know, that's something we consider as well. It's like, this is not just about squeezing it into the 6 months somehow, even though there might be a stronger intensity, of course, when you're training for something very specific, but really always in the context of how can we make this sustainable?
And if you're not a mountain climber or a marathon runner right now, could you still sign up? Could you still be a part of it?
That is literally 90% of our members. Yes.
Okay.
100%. So most of the people, there's people that have run marathons before and simply, you know, go like, for instance, and go or have like climbed mountains and do these things before, just in a great place physically. And they might be there more for the transformational leadership piece. Other people kind of join because they're inspired by the physical challenge and then go, oh my God, and I got so much more from this in the leadership aspect. But yes, most of the people that join us are in a place of, I even often like, I think I thought I could never run a marathon, or it's been this thing that I always had a question mark about, can I climb, you know, to 19,000 feet? Can I run a marathon? And that are on this inquiry and they know it's kind of there, but they might or might not ever do it by themselves without that support. And so we really can provide the structure, the container, the holding. We're like, kind of no matter where you're at, like if you can move a little bit right now, if you can just, you know, do some fast walking or hiking or something, totally fine. Within 6 months, we can get there together.
Okay. I love that. What or who has inspired you to take on this journey?
When it comes to the more physical piece of mountains and marathons as a whole, well, I will tell you that for me personally, when Jamin shared with me that he had a vision of running marathons and climbing mountains all over the world, I was like, not really interested in that. That was my first reaction, because I love
the truth there. It comes out awesome.
yeah. I had actually been like living in different places all around the world for about 7 years, and I had arrived in Melbourne in Australia, and I was like, this is great. I can call this place my home. Like, I want to ground here a bit. And within, you know, 6, 7, 8 months, I don't know, I meet James and he's like, I want to go and travel the world. And I'm like, that really doesn't sound cool. So it wasn't on my radar. And plus, I was actually never, like, marathons and mountains was not on my bucket list. And in addition to that, though, a couple of days later, it was only a few days after we had that conversation, I did a leadership program myself that I had signed up for quite a while before. And I got to see all the stories that I had attached to that, because I was always like a super unsporty kid. I'd never run more than 3 miles in my life. I had a whole identity around what I wasn't able to do physically. And the night when I had this program, I did this program, I came home to Jamin and I said, Jamin, we'll do this together. Because the question that came up for me, it wasn't so much about the finish line or the mountaintop or something. That was all good. But for me, the question that kept coming up was, who do I need to become? And who do I need to become to be the woman that can run marathons and climb big mountains? And it just seemed so far away from everything that I had ever known myself to be, that I was like, I don't even know who I need to become, but I'm really curious because she's someone else and I think she's badass. And so this question of who do I need to become is really a big piece of the foundation of mountains and marathons, that exploration. Like, and then, you know, we can translate that into any other area of life where we go, well, if this is what I desire for my relationships, for my health, for my financial life, like, who do I need to become? And being at the essence of any goal we set or anything that we achieve.
Yeah, I love that. And remaining curious, right? Because you know, right away you ask that question, who do I need to become? It's like, it just sparks imagination, creativity, curiosity, versus it's really easy, I think, just from our, you know, reptilian brain to fall into that, I don't know how to do it, or I can't do it, or I've never done that before. And then that takes us down a certain path of resignation, of finite, like there's just sort of no possibility from there. So I love the fact that like open curiosity and creativity, and you created something that you never thought you'd do. And even like you had sort of labeled yourself as being like not a, you know, a fit or active or sporty person. So then like that kind of ruled out a whole bunch of stuff in your life that you could potentially do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think when you just ask those like provoking questions and sit with it for a little bit too, because it's obviously you have to like tear down some of those walls that maybe you've built up and just be okay with that too. Forgiveness, all those things, and just like gently.
Lots of them. There was lots of stopping in the middle of a training run on the asphalt and just laying on the ground and crying. I've had those moments. And basically saying that my coach was wrong and Jamin was wrong and everybody else was wrong. And
you guys are all
what the F was I even doing here?
Yeah, you guys are the crazy.
It was clearly not my fault. It was not me getting myself into this miserable situation.
I love it. I love it. Well, that's like, you know, like that rawness, or like that's where the learnings come in, and such great memories. Like I think back to like whether it's like travel or sport, like, you know, sports, like getting myself stuck on like, you know, a triple black diamond run and then like going, okay, this is the only, like I have to go down. Like I don't want to hike back to where I was. So yeah. And then the story that you tell afterwards, which is amazing. That's where like a lot of the great memories of your life come from, are these like heroic and like leadership moving, inspiring episodes in your life. So great.
Absolutely.
We could just stop there. Like that's an amazing, just sort of end the podcast, but we're not, we're going to keep going. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to give you an example for this one that really moved me a while ago. I got on a call with one of our graduates. She graduated like last year, Kilimanjaro as well. And she's currently like, she's a CEO of a private equity funded company, and they're currently selling. And there's a whole bunch of just a lot of dynamics in there and a lot of uncertainties and a lot of unknowns. And she said to me, you know, Jen, I think back to the mountain every single day. And I remember that I don't need to know the path. I'm going to be fine. I remember that I don't need the first to be at the top. I remember that. Yeah, and she kept telling me all these analogies from Mount Kilimanjaro that, you know, seems to be an environment so far away from the office of a CEO, and how every single day she remembers the lessons that the mountain gave her. And that's what it's all about. Like, I don't care as much about the marathon mountain. They're great life experiences, but what we really care about is, how is this a metaphor for life, both in the actual experience and also in the preparation for it. And when I hear these things, like, yes, people become someone they never knew themselves to be before.
I love it. Okay. And I want to hear about your three uniques because I know this is going to lead into
Yes,
like kind of what you do because I'm inspired already. So yeah, please share what makes you unique.
absolutely. Yes. So the values piece is very clear for me, and we are very aligned in that. I know that because
Mhm.
that's what we're both all about, and that is
Mhm.
alignment. I mean, that is the biggest piece for me, and alignment, everything else falls underneath that. And maybe just for a little bit of context for that, the way that we define alignment is to live in congruence with our truth
Mhm.
and really like connecting to our truth and what that really is moment by moment, and a place where our words, our thoughts, our actions, and then what shows up in our external environment as a result of that are all in sync.
Right.
So the beauty for me about alignment is that it can literally apply to any life area. I don't need to be a relationship expert to apply
Mhm.
alignment. I don't need to be a health expert to apply alignment. Like we can use it across all in life, and it really is this beautiful philosophy. That is the first one for me.
What
Yeah.
would you say to people? Because like, yeah, you and I definitely share that value of around alignment. Our programs are both about alignment. And yet when you talk about your truth and getting clear around your truth, sometimes people like muddy their truth with other people's truths, right? Other people's opinions, objections, or obligations that they have to other people because of their relationships. How do people, like in your mind or the work that you do with your clients and even work that you've done on yourself, like unravel that? Like what's like sort of
Mm.
like and a piece of advice that you would do if they're just like so intertwined and they just don't even know anymore what their truth is?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, this is something we could sit here speak for 3 hours alone about that. I'll see whether how I kind of encapsulate it in a moment. So one of the first things we have people do inside of the Aligned Leadership Program is to write what we call their manifesto, which is declaration of who they are and like who they're inspired to be and what they're out to create in the world, which is really the truth of what they stand for. And you might think that, well, sitting down, writing down my vision, my dreams, like that's easy part. And what we found is that that's actually often one of the hardest parts, to your
Yes.
point.
Right.
Because for so many people, there's so many like societal expectations or maybe like moments from the past and disappointments that are layered on top of truth that it becomes really hard to access. So I found we first need to look at, okay, like why aren't we honest about it? Why don't we listen to our truth? It can be this. It can be like I've simply lost connection with it, lost connection to our intuition, lost connection with like what's really true because there's all this societal layering on top of it. It can also be because I know that if I looked at my truth, it would require something of me that I'm not willing to look at. Yeah,
Right.
it might actually be a life that looks very different, or a relationship that looks very different, or job or career that looks very different. And because it feels scary and because I don't know the path to it, I don't even admit what it is in the first place. And that's a big one. And I believe people are so much more connected to their truth than they admit themselves they
Mhm.
are because of that and because of that fear and this, I don't know what the path looks like. And there I would say, like, can you simply admit it to yourself as a first step? Can you simply like be honest with yourself about it for the first step, not even having to know what the path there will look like?
Right.
Because if we wait until we have it all figured out to even claim what we truly want, like it's kind of backwards. It doesn't work that way. And so can we just go, hey, actually, here's the thing. I have no idea what it's going to look like. I don't know whether it's going to happen in a week or in the next 10 years or some other point in my lifetime. But can I just like write it on a piece of paper, what I really want? And then also trust that as I claim my truth, things will start unfolding in a beautiful way
Mhm.
that actually get me closer to that. So there's a lot more to it, but this is the first step I would encourage people to look at. Like, where are the places where you already know and you know that you know,
Right.
and yet you're still looking away from it because there's a fear of what it might imply, or simply like, I don't know what it's going to look like to get there.
I love that. And there's probably a little bit because I come across this with folks, and this is why I also created the Three Uniques podcast, is that people tuck those, their truth aside, their uniques aside, for fear that they're going to lose people in their life that have just known them only for one
Hmm.
or one description. And I would say maybe, but not always. Because I think when people love you, they love you for who you are. And they probably see more of your uniques and they know your truth and they know that you're sometimes hiding or pushing away from that. And so when you actually arrive there, they're like, yeah, thanks. Thanks for coming to the party now. Like we've been waiting like all these years for you to show up.
Yes.
even though you've been here in physical form, you haven't necessarily always been here in emotional or spiritual form. And now you're here and there's this alignment. So thanks for coming. And then plus I always go back to, there's 8 billion people on this planet. Like you haven't even like, you know, sort of tipped the iceberg yet, as far as like meeting potentially all those people that you haven't been giving yourself access to because you haven't been stepping into your truth. Like once you step into it, like I just think about you and your story about not being, you know, a sporty person. And then now you're taking people up mountains and running marathons with them. And like, who's given like, you know, just the access that you've now been able to tap into because of that. So it's huge.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love alignment. Okay. Your second unique. You're right. We
We
whole
agree
podcast.
on this one.
We could just do this could turn from a
No
podcast
surprise.
into a master class. So, so your second unique.
Yes. The second one I would say is I have a very strong gift, and like actually in alignment with the first one, connecting people to their hearts and what's really there and what's really true, and like what does your heart really say, all the way to then spanning the arc to, and how do we make this pragmatic? How do we do this pragmatically? I see a lot of people that either very connected to their hearts, but maybe a little bit floaty and, you know, don't quite like know how to actually bring it about, or people that are like very action oriented and driven without really checking in on, is this fully aligned? Is this fully my truth? Like, you know, simply like going for something and being driven to something without necessarily having to the connection to the bigger picture. And I believe like where I really have a gift, like as a coach, is to go, okay, we go like with the big picture and the fluffy things and the things where we don't really know what they're going to look like, the big visioning, the big dreaming, to a degree where, you know, what's something that you haven't even dared to dream of, and capture that, and then bring it all the way to, and what's the implication of that on who you be and what you do in every moment, in every conversation, in your rituals, in your habits, in how you're showing up day by day. And really with that, like, this for me is what it means to bring all of life into alignment, like from the biggest picture to like to the very subtle and minute difference that we can make moment by moment.
I love it. I think we've talked about this gentleman before, Gaber Mete.
Yes.
Yeah, and he'll talk about it. We've got our brain, we've got our heart, and we've got our stomach, right? So the whole sort of intuitive connection between all three of those is actually like we've got 3 brains almost in our body, and to fully access them, right? And then when we access our brain, our heart, and our stomach, like our gut, that gut instinct, then we have true wisdom. That's what he sort of talks about. And I love that.
Beautiful.
Because I think, again, maybe from a traditional schooling standpoint, we're just taught so much about the cognitive, and not even really from a thinking imagination standpoint. If you look at school now, kids, like drama programs are, you know, not getting budgeted or funding. Art programs are being taken out of schools. And so we're just in this, like, learn how somebody else has done it from the past. And we're missing out on the creativity and the innovation and the imagination, because we're also not connecting with the whole body. Sports programs are being cut too. So sports, arts, you know, music programs, all those are being taken out of schools. And yet that's so much of how we operate as human beings. It's kind of like half of our body has been taken out. And so the fact that, you know, that's something that you hold true, how, like, again, how does someone tap into that if that's something that's been lacking? Like, so you gave the example of not being sporty. What happens if someone's like, I'm not creative, I'm not imaginative, I don't know how to link into that?
Oh, I have a lot to say about this one. I mean, often it is, I see a big access to these pieces actually like opening doors. Like sometimes people say to me, you know, I kind of feel numb, but I don't really feel much. And we walk it, okay, like, well, what are you feeling in the body right now? Yeah. When people say like, I'm kind of disconnected from my body, I don't really know how to even access it.
Right.
We go like really minute little moments. And then when you say, no, I'm not really creative, I'm like, have you ever cooked a meal? Have you ever solved a problem? Have you ever created an Excel sheet? For those people, often it's people in corporate, you know, like people that might have like very rational, quote unquote, jobs.
Yeah.
Have you ever been guided by your intuition where you knew something wasn't right, you know, even though it made sense in the numbers on the PowerPoint presentation? And so my perspective is that we are all creative and we're all creators. The question is, do we create consciously or unconsciously? But we're already creating. So let's actually own that so that we can make it a conscious and powerful piece of our being instead of something that happens unconsciously. Because if we don't acknowledge that, then we're lacking creative power. then
Right.
we're creating the entire time just things that we likely don't want.
Yeah, it's kind of the
because we're
anti-vision.
denying our
Yeah.
creativity, right?
Yeah, like our
So
anti-vision versus the true vision that we want.
yes. So often, like when people say, I don't even know where to get started, it's really actually like very simple shifts in the mindset behind it and in the way of thinking about something that then open up new ways of being and new ways of engaging with concepts and things that are surrounding us in the world and what we're bringing forward moment by moment.
Love it. Okay. And your third unique?
The third one, I would say it's I have a very special relationship with the world. I have been living around the world for the last 12 years, really. Home country is Germany, my country of origin. Been living all around the world for the last 12 years, for the last 5 years, fully nomadically. Jamie and I left Australia together when we started building the business. So that was really like at the same time we started building our relationship and a business and travel all around the world. That was a whole story in itself. But really, I've been living location dependent for the last 5 years and currently live in Guatemala, where amongst the 95% indigenous Mayan community on one of the most beautiful lakes in the world. And I believe that, that experience and this relationship to the world where nothing's ever far from me, it's either closer or it's further, but nothing's ever far from me, gives me a really has me have a very unique perspective and the level of and depth of cultural immersion and connection to places that has deeply enriched me in my way of thinking and how I relate to the world, to challenges, to opportunities, to a lot of different things. That has deeply shaped me.
And I'm sure I'm going to make the assumption that it also deeply shapes the leadership, program that you are developing and you're continuing to like off-road into the world. Whereas I find sometimes people that are coaching in leadership realms, not to knock other coaches out there, if they're just staying in the same location, not getting out of their four walls, not getting out of their city boundaries, they can get a little limited as far as like where like the breadth of leadership could go. Like, so I think if you're in these beautiful places like Guatemala or Kilimanjaro, wherever you're taking these leaders on their different journeys, and these different expeditions that you're going on with them, you're getting in touch with the land, you're getting in touch with, like you said, with indigenous cultures, your expansion of your perspective on the environment and how much leaders can have an impact on that. And, and recognizing that we are 100%. In this global community, we are in this global leadership movement. You can't think about the fact that, oh, I'm a manager of a business in, New Jersey, and I don't impact somebody else on the other side of the planet anymore. Like we can't think that way.
100%, yes. And, for some of the people that we work with, the kinds of trips that we do and where we take them, it's a really big deal. For us, it's normal to kind of jump around the world, but it's a really big deal for them. And I believe that we are this permission field to have it be a normal thing, to have it be, yes, a big deal, but also no big deal. And the truth is that when we go to these places, like whether it's Tanzania or Patagonia or something, yes, there's a physical challenge, but what people in the end come back with is being so deeply touched in their hearts by the people that we get to engage with, which we are incredibly intentional about. Ethical treatment of porters, like the kinds of guiding companies that we hire, like everything that we curate inside of our experiences is very intentional, is very ethical, and is very much like to really benefit local communities and to really bring people in touch with local people and cultures, where so many others, kind of like nearly like trying to keep tourists away from local people because they might not like that. I'm like, we're like, bring it. Let's bring them together and actually connect and notice that there's so much less that separates us than, what has us be similar, what has us all be human. And that is often the piece that when people go back actually most deeply impacted them. So yes, it's a big piece of what we do.
Thank you so much, Jen, for sharing your three uniques. They're very inspiring. And I know people are going to get a lot out of this when they listen to the podcast. A couple of my last questions for you is, where will we find you in 10 years? What will you be doing?
That's a great question.
Honestly,
Brenda, the way I work with this, the way I work with this is I have like very high level intentions in terms of like the difference I want to make in the world and the kind of work I want to do, which is very much aligned with what I'm doing right now. The exact shape that we'll have, I don't know. I would love for Mountains and Marathons to like still be there and like really like impact like larger numbers of leaders by then. I could also see myself, impacting people in different ways, but this kind of work and this work around alignment it will be that in 10 years. I am very certain of that, independent of what exactly the structure around it looks like. And I'm excited to see what opportunities are going to open up and how we can bring this to more leaders around the world.
Fantastic. And where can people find you and Jamin and your business?
Yeah, so Mountains and Marathons on Instagram, Mountains and Marathons on Facebook, very simple. Jen Ziegner, from just under my name, Instagram and Facebook as well. And our website, it's mountainsandmarathons.world. And there you also find the link to Kilimanjaro. Otherwise, it's /Kilimanjaro 2023 for the next upcoming program.
Amazing. And my last question for you is, if I was to give you a billboard and you could put it anywhere on the world and it could have anything on it, what would it say and where would you put it?
It would say live life fully.
Beautiful. Yeah. And where would it be?
I would do some research as to where the most people would see it. Maybe on Times Square.
Right. Yeah. Just around the corner from where you are.
Just around the corner.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Jen, thanks so much for being on today and sharing your 3 uniques with us and telling us more about your business and where we can find you. I know that there's some people who are definitely going to reach out to you and feel inspired from the call today.
Thank you for having me, Brenda. It was a pleasure.
And like I said in the podcast, everyone that's out there listening to this, get out there and share your 3 uniques like Jen. Someone needs what you've got. There's 8 billion people on this planet. Your 3 uniques are going to connect to each and every one of them. Take care, everyone. Thanks, Jen.